Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of The Sequel Continued, a show where we watch some movies, discuss them, and then pitch an idea for a sequel that in this case has already been scrapped. We are your host. I am Xavier.
I am Roger.
I am Jet.
That's right. We're bringing in a third host to help get the show off its feet and, back to you guys. So with that said, we're going to be changing a few things, but don't worry. We'll get into that later. I'm not going to bore you off the top with it. So as you can probably tell from the title of this episode, we're doing Pineapple Express. This was selected via a poll on Jet's YouTube channel. So thank you for everybody who voted in that.
A decisive victory for Pineapple Express. So,
like, after 24 hours, I think it was at 50%. Now it's at like 52 or something like that. So, and I think like 800 people or close to it voted. So
strong instinct,
neat.
Sir.
Yeah, it was my selection, and I'm super ecstatic because you guys might not know this, but this movie has significance not only to me but to like the three of us as collaborators.
Oh, I don't know anything. Oh, does this have Kidnapping Ellen connections?
Yes.
I was thinking it with the bad guys.
Yeah, with the bad guys and like the dinner scene and all that stuff. But yeah, when I was a teenager, living in Puerto Rico with nothing better to do but watch movies and like read about movies online, I came across this script hosted on simplyscripts.com. This was like 2 years before Pineapple Express came out, and I read it, and it inspired me to finish my first script, which was Kidnapping Ellen, that we made a short pilot for eventually years later. Now, Jet, when I suggested this movie, you mentioned that you had not seen it.
I had not. I didn't know when literally my level of experience is I got it when you first said it. I had it mixed up in my head with a Wes Anderson film that I think features a train a lot.
Oh, Darjeeling Unlimited.
Yes.
Or Darjeeling Limited.
Yes.
Yeah.
The title of it sounds like a Wes Anderson. So wrong. It's weed, though most weed sounds like a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah. So, Roger, I'm not sure how familiar you were with it before
I had
this.
seen it maybe twice before. Once was like, oh, Seth Rogen movie. I'll go watch that. And another time it was just playing at a party that I ended up sitting down and watching it at. Like
you have a very different instinctive reaction to Seth Rogen movies than I do.
I have a kinship with Seth Rogen in that I can replicate his laughter.
And that will be saved for the end of the show.
Okay, yeah, if you want to hear my impersonation of Seth Rogen's laugh.
Or you can break it out at an unexpected moment.
One of my real laughs will be a Seth laugh.
So we'll hop into it here in just a moment, but just for fun, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the iconic trailer for this movie featuring MIA's Paper Planes, but I want to take a wild guess what movie I went to go see in 2008 when I first saw the trailer for this.
You said 2008?
Yeah, 2008.
Oh, what came out in 2008?
Was this a Michael Cera feature?
No. It had nothing to do with Pineapple Express. It was...
Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
It was Kung Fu Panda.
Okay.
So
they put a trailer for Pineapple Express in front of Kung Fu Panda?
Yeah, and this was way before I ever worked at a movie theater, but I remember even then thinking, like, this is a weird trailer to have on
Bold
this movie.
choice, yeah.
All right, so with the new hosting...
Continuum, Matrix.
Yeah, we're changing up the format of the show. So instead, we're going to be rotating kind of who takes charge of what movie we watch. Since my pick was the first one, I decided to go ahead and take the lead on this one. And so we're going to do things a little differently. We're not doing the questions anymore. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap the movie here as succinctly as I possibly can. It should take less than 5 minutes. Then we're going to discuss the aspects of the movie that we liked, thought would be good sequel material, and then we'll get into the sequelizing portion of it, the pitching, which I will moderate while you two kind of go back and forth and just give us an idea for a Pineapple Express 2.
If it takes longer than 5 minutes, I'm releasing the creature.
All right, so let's get into it. This week was Pineapple Express, the 2008 stoner classic about Dale Denton, a process server with a love for talk radio, disguises, and of course marijuana, and his awkward relationship with his drug dealer slash civil engineering enthusiast Saul Silver, who introduces Dale to a new strain of weed called Pineapple Express. Later, while on the job, Dale is witness to a murder committed by Ted Jones, who is the local drug lord, capping out the competition. Not sure what to do, Dale turns to Saul and soon realizes that the roach he left at the crime scene containing Pineapple Express can be easily traced back to them. So now the two find themselves on the run from Ted and his goons, Matheson, Budlowski, and Carol, the corrupt cop. After a crazy night in the woods and unsure where to turn, they seek help from Saul's good friend and middleman to Ted Jones, Red. Red, unbeknownst to the two, has already sold them out, which leads to an epic house fight with Dale and Saul gaining the upper hand and narrowly escaping Ted's goons.
The longest fight scene in any film.
I rewatched it. It wasn't as long as I remembered, but it was still a goodie. Now Dale realizes that the bad guys know who he is, which means that they probably know about his high school girlfriend. That's right, Dale, much like Scott Pilgrim, is dating a high schooler. And yes, it is weird, and the movie does make note of it. Now, trying to help Angie and her parents, Dale only ends up alienating the nuclear family, and they go on the run. Once again, with nowhere to turn or go, Dale and Saul realize that they just have to skip town. So they attempt to sell some Pineapple Express to a couple of teenagers, only to be caught by a liaison officer from the school. This leads to a kooky, crazy car chase with the two managing to escape yet again. But Dale has reached a breaking point, which leads to a falling out with Saul, and the two split ways. After a short montage and a phone call with Angie, Dale realizes that he's had his priorities wrong all along and must reconcile with his friend. But Saul has been captured after an attempt to make good on a promise to his grandmother to change her clocks for daylight savings. Now Dale must save Saul, but he can't do it alone, so he goes back to Red, who, in an attempt to redeem himself and not be reincarnated as an anal bead, agrees to help. The climax of the movie takes place at Ted's hideout, between Dale, Saul, Ted and his goons, and their unspecified Asian counterparts. This ends in a blaze of fire and a daze of smoke of some of the dopest dope these guys have ever smoked. The movie concludes with Dale, Saul, and Red in a diner going over their exploits and waiting for Saul's bubby to give them a ride. So that's the movie. What did you guys think?
I do want to start with Jet because this was it your first time seeing it?
This was my first time seeing it, and what I was immediately encountered upon starting the film was the one thing perhaps left out of your synopsis there, Xavier, which was that the movie starts with a framing sequence in like the 1940s or so, in a black and white framing sequence of like deep in the like Nevada desert, an underground bunker where terrifying compounds are being tested and experimented with, and a general comes downstairs and finds a test subject, Bill Hader, smoking some what do they call it, like Compound 9 or something?
Item 9. Yeah.
Item 9. And this is the very event that gets marijuana criminalized in as the general shouts, illegal. And correct me if I'm wrong, this underground bunker is the same location where Ted the drug lord's hideout at the end of the movie is built inside of.
That is correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a wonderful callback. All things considered, very fun, just wild movie with some surprisingly compelling action throughout. I would have to say my two favorite elements of the film. One were the like school cop who arrests Dale Denton. Only he tells her the whole story about there's like corruption in the police and a murder's happened and he's a witness, and she's just like, oh, I'm getting to the bottom of this. I believe you. That's messed up. There are some corrupt cops in the force. the law serves me, I don't serve the law.
Yes.
And I am going to figure this out for you. And then it all goes wrong, and she's never seen again. But I loved her, and I want her to be in the sequel, whatever we come up with. She's got to show up again. And then my other favorite recurring joke is the sort of tertiary friend character of Saul, who ends up becoming more relevant at different points of the movie. Red, Danny McBride's character, has a sort of Halloween Michael Myers-esque ability to get shot and injured an infinite amount of times in an unending amount of ways, and then just get up and keep going. He is the unkillable man. He's probably has like 10 bullets in his body by the end of the movie, and they're just like eating dinner.
That's really funny you said unkillable man, because in my notes I have those exact words for Red.
It's never commented on. It's never mentioned. It's completely a background element to the movie that no one questions.
Well, I think at the very end, Dale does mention like he's been shot like 7 times. But you know, it's the weed. Marijuana has that pain neutralizing effect. So he just doesn't.
Something
feel
else
it.
about the movie is I don't know if you guys. I don't want to out anybody here. I don't know if you guys have ever been high on marijuana before. I couldn't do a single thing that they did in this movie if I were imbibing on weed. There's no way.
I would not know. I am a good little Christian boy who's never had a drugs. And so I was like, oh, this seems improbable, but I guess so. Maybe you could do it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have your experience.
No, I mean they do mention it on the scene where Dale and Saul have their little falling out. He's like, why are you lighting up again? I don't know if you've noticed, but like we don't function very well when we're
Which is
high.
all
So
the time.
It is noted. Yeah.
One of my favorite moments, aside from actually, I'm going to bounce off of you, Jet. You mentioned the school liaison officer and how you want her in the sequel. I also wrote that down. I love her so much. But the scene right after that, so she's like, you know what? I know exactly who you're talking about. I want to get to the bottom of this. Saul, in an attempt to save Dale Denton from being arrested, gets hit by this police car and throws a bunch of red slushy everywhere. And as the cop gets out to check on, I guess maybe the person she hit, he gets in the driver's seat, and then they go on. This had to have been a 7-minute scene of them.
An extended car chase.
A car chase. That it's not like incredibly action packed, but the things that happen in the car chase are astounding. My number one most laughed at moment is whenever Dale tries to kick out the windshield because he can't see through it, and his foot gets stuck.
Goes through the window.
Gets stuck in the windshield, and from the outside you see him driving around and the foot's just hanging out. That tore me apart.
So Roger, can I make a comment on what you said? Well, I guess what both of you said about how it was like a really extended car chase scene. So originally, in my original draft of Kidnapping Ellen, I had a like 30-page car chase scene.
30 pages? What is this, Mad Max?
They drive more. He turns. They turn. The moment that killed me in the car chase is when Saul's like, hang on, I got an idea.
And
because
he
they're
hits the
like
brakes?
neck and neck, the two cars, and slams the brakes. You know, trying to do the Top Gun thing where the other, like, the car's gonna like fly past and they turn around and go the other way. But then the cop that's chasing it just like stops at the same time and starts shooting at them while they're both just stopped in the road.
And then she shoots up like a stranger, like an innocent pedestrian, and just yells out "sorry" and like
Sorry. Yeah.
Let's see what else. Oh, another thing that I really like about the movie is the ADR dialogue. Movies use ADR as an like kind of a crutch, like you were supposed to say this line, or your back is turned so we could add something here. Pineapple Express uses ADR dialogue not as a crutch, but as a rocket. there's so many things that they say, like anything Seth Rogen does in this movie, where he approaches a car, he goes car, or like he like wants to put the phone in the toilet, and he's like toilet, like it's
Flush.
or like whenever they're in the chase scene when they're driving through like I guess a small wooded park, he goes tree, squirrel, like so funny.
If you were ever confused for a moment about the items on screen,
Seth was gonna tell you.
Seth Rogen, he will be saying he actually wrote the closed captions himself. He was very passionate about describing the visuals, so he came in and just typed out all of the closed
Jed,
captions.
are you lying? Because I'll believe you.
I'm lying.
God, man.
I can see the look on Roger's face when he can't.
I had to
tell.
check with Xavier. I was like, is that true?
No, I was gonna say that one of the most iconic lines from this movie, which is "I seen you pull a man's jawbone off."
I seen
it. I was watching this movie with subtitles, and all they wrote on it was "I seen you, I seen it," and I was like, oh well. Would have been fun if they did it properly.
What's it? Craig? What's his name?
Craig Robinson.
I was gonna say Ferguson. Craig Robinson in this movie kills me. The
scene when they go into the parents' house as they narrowly escape, and he puts his hands in the food, and he's like, "It's still warm."
Oh god. No, the two like criminal thug hitmen who were chasing down Saul and Dale have like such in-depth like characterization and interpersonal drama. I mean, it's gotta be like a riff on Pulp Fiction, or something, because there is somewhat of that like strange inner lives of these other antagonist characters that we're only getting peeks at.
So, Jet, I don't know if you looked into this movie at all, like any facts about it, but the main inspiration for this movie was Brad Pitt's character in True Romance. Like, he plays a drug dealer that's on screen for like 10 minutes, and Judd Apatow was like, what would that guy's be like? Like, what would that guy's life be like if we followed him outside getting chased by bad guys and stuff? So he is who Saul is based off of. And if you watch True Romance, you can kind of see it in the resemblance, even though Seth Rogen was supposed to play Saul initially. But it's, yeah, most of it is just kind of like they want you to know more about these little side characters' lives. That's why they even give like the guy who comes up to Angie at the beginning, and he's like, hey, you left your shorts in my car when you worked out with me and stuff. Even he has like kind of an elaborate little
odd amount of like
how he
depth.
connects.
Yeah, because like all the characters are like, oh, that's such a nice guy, you know, and like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess he'll be relevant. He's not.
The lingerers at Saul's apartment.
Yeah.
This is my friend Mark, and Mark's like, do you have any Percocet? And like instantly there's drama from that.
Things kept happening that I thought were like Chekhov's guns of characterization that were not. I don't know that there are like any Chekhov's guns in this movie. Every solution is solved, every problem is solved by some new other thing, and everything that like a lot of time was spent on just disappears.
See, when I was writing the synopsis, I had an issue with I had to like keep editing it down because I was like, I'm just gonna keep writing they escape again, like they narrowly escape, and then they narrowly escape, and then they narrowly escape. But I think the true what really makes this movie work is just the improvised lines that they add in like every scene. Having read the script before watching the movie, it's pretty close. Like they don't improvise as much, but there are little bits that they do improvise. Like obviously the scene tit line was improvised. A lot of Saul's apartment was improvised, but was still very close to script.
Whenever Dale Denton and Red were like aiming their guns, like practicing aiming their guns, and Red's like, don't. It's such a good moment.
Oh, man.
No, like great example right there of like Red has a bunch of guns in his house. That's not established.
Yeah, also
they could have.
There was a massive fight scene where none of the guns were pulled out.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I was thinking that when he rips down the poster and then you see all the guns. I'd seen this movie so many times, but at that moment I was like, well, no, because also I noticed rewatching it that Saul in his apartment has a giant safe, and I'm like, what's in that safe? Does he not have like guns in that safe, or like what? And then Red has his like in the wall, and nobody goes for it during the fight scene, which because obviously it's meant to be a comedic
Sure.
fight scene, but
So if we're gonna make a sequel to this film, we have to figure out, right? What are the elements of the film that are like able that you can conceptually like carry over, right? In the way that like if you made a sequel to Titanic, like you could like there's options, right? New cast of characters, new boat sinks. Or do we follow the characters from the end of Titanic and put them in a new situation, right? Or do we do like an Aliens and we call it Titanics and there's a whole bunch, right? So like there's options here.
so I'm glad you started transitioning into this. Since you haven't seen this movie yet, I am positive you're not aware of This Is the End. Roger, have you seen This Is the End?
Of course, I've seen This Is the End.
I know of This Is the
Okay.
End.
So there is a homemade trailer for Pineapple Express 2 in This Is the End. So I'm going to make you guys
Oh.
watch that right now to give you an idea. And this is actually what it was supposed to be. Funding fell through, so they never got around to it. This was their idea. I'm going to have you watch this, give it a thought. We're not going to do anything with this.
Okay.
We're scrapping that entirely.
Excellent.
We're going to
So-
do our own fresh thing.
So the rule is we cannot use any of the elements featured in the spec trailer for the
Right.
sequel. I
Well,
love
I mean,
that.
you're gonna watch it here in a second, and you're gonna see that honestly, a lot of the elements in this wouldn't work anymore with the legalization of weed.
Right.
So here, let's just go ahead and get into it. I don't know if we can show this in the video version, but we'll just cut to our reactions. So, all right.
Incredible. So that seems to take the route of another wacky weed adventure with guns and Red is the bad guy.
Right. But Xavier, you said something right before playing that it didn't really occur to me at all until you said it. Was that
Mhm.
if weed was legalized, the crux of the movie kind of wanes. Like the main conflict of the movie is kind of made void.
So, Pineapple Express takes place in a fictional town/county. It's the same one from Superbad.
Oh.
So it could still not be legal there. But also, I think when reading about the actual plot that they were trying to do for the original sequel to this, it was legalizing it on a federal level, not just in their town or whatever. But there is another crutch to this sequel. As you can probably remember from that trailer a few moments ago, BFFFFF Forever does not apply because Seth Rogen has pledged not to work with James Franco again
Right.
after allegations of misconduct.
I have a few ways of fixing this.
I don't have any specific ideas to solve the James Franco issue. I do, however, have an idea for perhaps the antagonist of the film.
Oh,
Perhaps
Okay.
interesting.
perhaps there is another sort of washed up crime boss in the style of Ted who's been put out of business by the nationwide legalization of marijuana, and he is trying to get weed illegal again so he can have his crime empire back.
Oh, interesting.
And then this could potentially pull Seth Rogen's character into back into a hero position of some sort to stop this from happening.
So would this new character be like kind of daylighting as this like holier than thou conservative character who's like weed is bad, everyone should be ashamed of yourselves, and then
Ooh.
behind the scenes like all he wants to do is get his empire back on the rise as a drug lord.
All right. Here's how we connect it. I like that. Here's an idea. Once weed in this universe was decriminalized nationally, Dale Denton published a book about his story and became somewhat wealthy, or perhaps started a radio show.
Right. That's probably,
as is, of course, his dream, and has become, through telling these stories, somewhat of a mythical figure, that contributed towards the legalization. And then this villain character targets Dale Denton in their rhetoric as their as this sort of holier than thou conservative type character, while secretly they want to be a drug lord again.
Okay, so we have a bad guy who wants to make weed illegal again. In order to resume his criminal enterprise.
Yes.
With Dale, let's say obviously Dale has to be a podcaster,
right?
Because
I think so.
Where the times have gone. Dale has a podcast. Seth Rogen levels.
Big national podcast host. All about
huge.
Yeah. What kind of podcast is it? Is it like a sort of marijuana focused podcast?
I think there's a cap on how much you can talk about marijuana.
You'd think, but there's people out there.
No, I live in Colorado. There's definitely a cap where you can run out of things to say, especially if it's legalized. Especially if it's legalized.
That's where he made telling the story of the first Pineapple Express movie is sort of how he got where he's at.
Let's just say his podcast has to do with something that all smokers can kind of connect with: conspiracy theories.
Okay. All right, I can get behind that. So
after experiencing that bunker, he realizes, like, wow, there was stuff going down. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. That's going to be my show. That's what skyrocketed him to popularity.
Because he encountered all kinds of stuff, corruption in the police and secret underground bunkers and so on and so forth. So yeah, maybe it's somewhat investigative, conspiracy type this, and then he uncovers sort of this hoax going on with this corrupt televangelist.
Oh, wait!
So I'm going to stop you right there, Jet. Roger, what were you going to say before that?
So I
just put a pen in that thought. And...
Jet, I just want to say I do like the idea that the movie starts because Dale is finding the plot holes of this televangelist, and that's the conflict, is that he said something, like he bad talked him on his podcast, and like that's the reason.
Right. So now suddenly in a John Wick-esque format, this wannabe former crime boss wants to take him out.
So at the very end of Pineapple Express, there is a scene that is set where the movie, I don't want to say abruptly ends. Like, they tie a bow on things, sure, but. So at the very end, they're waiting in a diner. I think it's a diner or a cafe for Bubby, who is Saul's grandmother. What if the sequel began with that Ford Focus getting into a terrible car crash and a subsequent funeral for Saul's character, the only one that died in the crash?
Okay, so I was literally gonna suggest that Saul, this whole thing is an in memoriam for him. So that way we can explain why he's not in the movie. So yeah, we can kill off Saul, because honestly, that's the only way we're gonna get around it, unless we want to try to recast him.
Recasting was my second option, and I have a few ideas for it. Okay, Jenna helped me out with this. My number one pick. Actually, I'm gonna start with my number 3. My number 3 pick for replacing Saul, as the same name, same character, different actor. My third choice is Donald Glover.
Oh.
They do not address the changes
Oh
at all.
my god.
Okay.
They flow right into it. My second choice is that Saul has been a dog this whole time. He's a Jack Russell Terrier. My third choice, or my number one choice for recasting Saul is James Franco's younger brother, Dave.
That I was also thinking that because it could be seamless. Honestly, I don't think anybody would question it.
I like the idea of Donald Glover. I like the idea of a nonsensical recast. In the vein of nonsensical recast, we could choose one of Seth Rogen's other most well-known foils on screen, which would be Jay Cho, who played Kato in The Green Hornets.
Okay. Hey, by the way, last night when I watched this movie, I found out that Bobby Lee is in it. The comedian Bobby Lee. I had no idea. I mean, I've only seen it twice, but like,
yeah,
I really
he
paid
was
attention.
one of, in the words of the movie, the Asians.
One of the
The nondescript sort of other East Asian crime syndicate.
So I know a lot of trivia about this movie, and I do believe that they speak Korean.
According to the subtitles, it is
but-
Korean.
Yeah, but they do not specify what kind of Asian it is. In fact, Red goes on that whole little kind of he trails off, kind of trying to describe what kind of Asians they are. So
I gotta assume Korean. So I will be referring to that group of characters as the Koreans, the Korean mob.
Yeah. Another hurdle that we would run into is if we choose to kill Saul, it would have to be done off screen. Only in that, even if we used a CGI Saul, we would still have to pay for likeness properties. So,
for Franco.
I really like the idea of recasting, and I think I really like the idea of Donald Glover in the role, just because that would be an added star power to it.
That's true.
And I like the idea that they would literally reshoot scenes from the other movie to do flashback sequences. And bring Donald Glover into the role.
That's very good.
Like not even a similar characterization.
All right, let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and do Donald Glover as the new Saul.
Donald Glover is the new Saul.
So what is Saul up to then? Has he become a civil engineer? Is he going to school? What's he doing?
So, I mean,
is he building those septic tanks for
little kids so little kids can shit at parks?
Yeah.
I want to say yes, but I don't think so.
Can we tie that in some way to the villain plot? Is there some way that independent of Dale Denton's story, Saul could get involved in the whole conspiracy as a civil engineer?
What if he was contracted to design a methadone clinic?
Maybe there's they're building like conversion camps to get people unaddicted to weed, which is not a thing. If he's an engineer, then he would be involved with the blueprints of this building, right? And it would have to be something that's getting government funding, right? Which would show that this might actually have some legs, right? This guy's really if he keeps going and isn't stopped and isn't criticized, this could be the end to the decriminalization. So Donald Glover's character Saul Silver, one of his classic roles, ends up being put on the project to build this marijuana addiction center, but then finds in the blueprints hidden underground chambers that are for growing weed, right? Because that's the thing, it's all a cover, right? Once it's recriminalized, the villain gets his empire back.
Just to tie it to themes from the first movie, what if word got out that the original El Dorado, this underground weed camp, got burnt, and this new marijuana crime lord, now with I can't remember his name, Ted Jones, and the Koreans out of the picture as far as who owns all the weed
Yeah,
or whatever.
he starts building up
A
his
new El
empire
Dorado.
to fill this gap.
What if he's
Yes.
what if he's a big church televangelist and it's underneath the church grounds? What if it's called El Dorado First Baptist or something?
I just want to get some information clear. So Dale's a podcaster.
Yeah.
Saul is a civil engineer, and then the baddie is
a crime lord who started gaining power after the events of the first movie in the absence of Ted.
Right.
But oh god, what if
So I like the idea of him being a televangelist who's trying to like guilt people into into criminalizing weed
Yes.
again. But I want to pitch an idea for well, I'm the producer of this
We haven't
episode, so-
talked about the producer side of things yet.
Yeah, that is we're trying to convince Xavier here because he's the one that could get this project funded.
Right. Xavier, wait, where are your producer
Right.
shades or hat? So each episode there will be 3 hosts.
Hell yeah.
One of the hosts is a producer. The other 2 have to convince the producer what the sequel's going to be.
Yeah, so since I took the lead on this episode, I'm acting as the producer, moderating this pitch session. So I guess I have the final say, but I'm going to use your guys' ideas to kind of to shape this out. So I like the idea of the bad guy being a televangelist, but I want to pitch an idea because I know too much about this
Right.
movie. There are, with comedies from this era, there are always the unrated version that has extra scenes in it. And in one of those scenes, when Ted calls the Korean crime boss, and he kind of freaks out, and he's like, "I'm taking you guys down." In the unrated version, his son is on the other line. Like his son was trying to call someone.
That is what I watched,
and
I think.
Oh,
okay. So it's a crapshoot which one you get, depending on which streaming service, what DVD you have, and everything.
Yes, I used official avenues to watch the film.
So what if Ted's son is this bad guy who is trying to who's trying to criminalize weed again so he can continue his father's empire? That's why he has access to El Dorado. That's why he's trying to do all this stuff.
He was a teenager. It's been
Oh yeah, we haven't really set up a time.
16 years since the movie came out,
Oh,
so he
oh,
could
I see
be
what you're
an
saying.
adult.
So I like the idea that Dale and Saul aren't trying necessarily to bring this guy down just because they notice that he's like a bad dude.
Yeah.
I want this guy to have dirt on Dale and Saul. And of course, in the age of cancel culture, the fact that Saul dated a high schooler when he was 25 is the blackmail that this guy is going to use to get him involved.
Dale, not Saul.
Dale,
Yes.
yes.
We could. I mean, honestly, that could be his not straw man argument, but I don't know vernacular. But
I think that's his secret weapon. I
Yeah.
think that's something that he pulls out that kind of like we think everything is resolved, right? I think we do sort of a false ending, right? I think like
wait.
because my thought for the inciting incident, right, is Saul is working on this project. Dale has this podcast, and on his podcast, he's started just kind of tearing into this televangelist. Like, this guy's insane. This guy's such an idiot. I bet he's got like all kinds of like messed up stuff going on. Under the covers, because these guys are always twisted in some way. And then that sort of like puts the televangelist on his radar. They start like, feuding on Twitter, just like kind of normal stuff. And then Saul, who Dale has not seen in quite a while, runs up, bursts into Dale's house, and is like, "My guy, you'll never believe what I just found."
Right.
Spreads the blueprints out over the table of the televangelist's new church project that's been built, and finds all of the like growing
Yeah.
like marijuana stuff underground the church, right? And as they're like talking about this, Saul's just like, like, you got the podcast, you can get this out here. Like, I know you're the guy, my guy. And Dale's just like, oh, this is so great. I mean, this is gonna be national news. We're gonna take this guy down. And then frickin' like assassins on ropes burst through the windows. You know what? Probably like they're having a dialogue. And Dale's like, like, how did you get this stuff? And Saul's like, I stole it. He's like, did anyone see you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the bad guys burst into the building.
Yes.
And
And
a big action scene
they
ensues,
narrowly
and then they're
escape.
on the run.
Yeah.
They're on the run. They're trying to find a way to get this information out there while trying to survive the onslaught from this guy is trying to, and we don't know the motivation of the villain at this point. We just know oh, this dude's a hypocrite, which is enough. But then we slowly learn no, he's trying to get weed criminalized again so that he can be the only centralized dealer in the nation.
There were a few things, not necessarily plot holes, but some untied ribbons. I don't know what that means. At the end of the first film, Angie's family is never called back to leave the hotel.
No.
Angie, speaking of cancel culture, was played by Amber Heard, which, if you haven't heard, is getting canceled. So, it's are we going to recast that or just simply never show that character? Because I have some ideas on how we could. So, given that he never calls them to leave the hotel, I do think obviously they break up or what have you. But what if as this, we gotta call this guy something instead of the televangelist or the antagonist.
Hold on, let me see if I can find what that character's name was. I'm pretty sure he has a credit.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not Ted's son.
If it's not, then his name's gonna be Theodore.
I will say this. I do believe it is said that Angie is 18.
Yes.
In the movie.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
They say that she's in high school, but she is an 18-year-old.
Still a problem, but
her father does own a gun. It is a rifle.
Yeah.
I also wrote down possible replacement for Saul's character. Let's see. What if Angie gets taken because this televangelist character is obviously getting pretty desperate to take down Dale Denton and is he really cares about this lady, or maybe used to. I don't know.
I certainly think that the relationship with Angie has not panned out, right?
Oh, no.
Because she is the movie forgets her completely. She's just like, all right, I'll get you out of this motel, and then she's just out of the movie from that point on. But I think you can play with that,
right? Like the televangelist obviously kidnaps Angie, but Dale doesn't give a shit.
I don't think he's kidnapped Angie. I think he's in league. I really like the idea that he is in league in some way with Angie's father.
Oh.
I see. What I was thinking was, she is married to the televangelist. That's why when they find out that Dale is going about whatever he's trying to do to screw this guy over, they go hard in on him because she has a grudge because he didn't call her for at least a month. So she never got to go to college.
Wait.
She wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, okay, it's been, 16 years. She was 18 at the time. She's around, again, our age. She could be married to Ted's, what, did you find out his name?
No. I couldn't find him listed, so we can just call
Theodore,
him Theodore.
Jones. Theodore Jones.
Jones.
The televangelist. She gets married to him. Her father greatly approves. But then later in the movie, whenever it's all uncovered that Theodore Jones is this underground mob boss, what if her dad switches sides and is this rifle-toting madman after his daughter's criminal husband?
Interesting, because the dad is well-intentioned the whole time, and honestly doesn't react overblown as I would expect anyone to act in, except maybe immediately trying to shoot guys. But
Yeah.
he's well intentioned, and I like that because as long as we are not in any way villainizing Angie. I don't want her to be involved in the grudge against Dale, because I think I like the idea of, I don't know, I think you get into some tricky thematic water in sort of making her,
In villainizing the only woman.
yeah.
I do like the idea of getting Angie and her family involved on opposite sides with Dale and Saul, because of how things ended. Well, not necessarily holding a grudge, but obviously just not on the same page.
Sure.
That's fine. How does the liaison officer come into it?
There were a few characters that I was wondering if we could bring back at all.
My thought was that after what happened, she continued on the beat, uncovered all of these conspiracies, and so on, and corruption, and was instrumental in the eventual decriminalization of marijuana in the first place. Like, she stayed on it and cracked the case.
So we went in two different directions there. I said the school liaison officer could return, possible replacement for Saul. I wrote that for every character.
I would also do that.
I mean, I thought
Maybe
that too,
she put
so.
down the badge to pursue vigilantism.
See, I kind of like Jet's
Okay.
idea that she went on to do all these great things, but I like the idea that Dale and Saul are now on the run from this guy's
Yes, they are on a
goons.
big cross-country road trip as they're being chased.
And they state, they don't know where to go. They need someone to turn to, someone to help. So who do they go to? This liaison officer, who, despite everything she's accomplished, is still a school liaison officer.
Yes.
She stuck to those roots.
Doing the right thing has advanced her station none.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is very fitting of this universe of sort of non sequiturs and so on.
However, when they do go to recruit her in helping, this is when she does finally decide to put down the badge and help them out. So she must leave this school in order to be of some sort of assistance to them. So
I think she the red of the movie, right? The sort of third.
So
third
that was
ego.
another thing, is what is Red doing?
if he's not helping him out, I mean, he's loaded at this point off of legalized
That's
weed.
true. But also, are we going to humanize these the henchmen?
Oh, are we gonna there's two henchmen that kind of stand out among the rest?
I guess that is the question: is do we do that same thing? I mean, regardless, there's going to be just a plethora of irrelevant, highly developed side characters throughout the entire movie at every stage.
What if Chris Gerger and Mark, the two guys, the lingerers that came to Saul's apartment?
The lingerer.
What if they were the new hitmen?
They are okay. They're in.
One of them is obviously addicted to Percocet or whatever.
They are allegedly some of Theodore's first successful healed marijuana addicts, who his marijuana recovery center / church or whatever. They're like, they've been like paid off to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I was addicted to weed. It was ruining my life.
I was
but they're still on Percocet.
Yeah, Percocet is still
That's
in
their
the
one
system.
crutch. Okay, I like the idea of those two kind of having a part in it. Now, we're running close to an hour at this
Yes.
point. So
Antics happen. Many antics.
Of course. Lots of
Characters
weed
show
smoking.
up.
lots of antics, lots of narrow escapes. Climax. Where does the climax take place? Is it a shootout like it was in the first movie? What's going on there?
Okay, in the first movie, Red mentions how his wife gets out of jail soon. What if
Yes.
Red dies and she's there, like guns ablazing, and she's actually really good with firearms?
Well, Red cannot be
Oh,
killed.
that's
is the
right. He's
problem.
the unkillable man. No, what
Yeah.
if she thinks he's dead? What if he's being cured? What if he's like he goes? What if what if
Oh,
Theodore?
He
God.
gets kidnapped and like put through the process.
Sorry, his whole wife thing was an afterthought that I just read in my notes. I was thinking maybe she could be the front line on this assault against the church. um, just an idea. If it is an assault, obviously, it is a climax of a silly weed smoking movie. So, like, I don't see why not.
Okay. I think maybe the marriage angle is overcomplicating it. I think what's happened is Theodore has found Angie and her father, or just one of them if you can't get Amber Heard. It could just be the dad.
I mean, we don't have to get Amber Heard. We can recast her. You know what? Donald Glover is also Amber Heard's character.
Yeah. No further elaboration needed. That's in the movie. He's going to have them on the show, right? To basically decry Seth Rogen's character and get him canceled by the sort of Puritan cancel culture thing.
The cancelization angle is simply so that the masses turn against him, and anything he says to kind of keep weed legal and decriminalized will be void.
Right.
Yes, I think Dale Denton is an important voice for the people within this. Just because the celebrity involved and the story and the book and the podcast and so on. He's a big deal. He's Joe Rogan in this universe practically. And
Right.
What if at the very
basically if we don't get in there and reveal Theodore first, all is lost. This dad of my old high school girlfriend, is going to, destroy me with what, with my dark past. So we need to break into this conversion compound, get the blueprints, stop Theodore, and reveal the truth.
What if at the very end, they're trying to expose Theodore for what he is, right? He's this big time televangelist, his mega church, what have you. And at the very end, because like the blueprints have been burnt, they ran in there with like a camera, and that camera's been destroyed. At the very end, there's a massive shootout, and they're standing on the stage or the pulpit. I actually don't know what they call them in the church. And like it's gun to gun. And, Seth Rogen's on the ground. He's got his gun facing up, and Theodore is got his gun facing down at him. And Theodore starts giving this monologue, like...
he starts explaining his plan.
All of his plan. But what he doesn't know is that the televangelist TV cameras are on.
The camera's on. It's broadcasting.
broadcasts
He's live,
everywhere.
baby. As he's standing above with a gun pointed at Seth Rogen's head saying, "You don't get it. There's nothing more profitable than criminalized addicts," and then takes like a big drag from a blunt and lowers it that just appears from off camera.
And then obviously someone rushes in. They're like, "Boss, the camera, blah," and what have you, and he gets arrested by the liaison.
Dale gets the upper hand, or whatever, and then maybe it still all goes bad, his reputation, but now he's a crazed man with nothing to lose. And then Angie's dad comes in with the shotgun and is like, "I'm no fan of addicts, but if there's one thing I hate more, it's a liar." Boom.
So, that's great. We can even have Angie's dad come in at the last minute, kind of like oh man, the little twin movie in cable. The cable guy.
Stan and Dan's
Brother, Sweet Brother.
Sweet Brother, yeah.
And then at the last minute, Saul or the liaison officer or even Red's wife, somebody comes in, stops the father. Now, what is a one-liner for Dale's his call sign on his podcast that he can say to either the father or Theodore once they're defeated? You know how at the very end of the first movie
you got
he finally
served.
pulls out, "You got served." Yeah. So
Crucify this.
What if? Okay. What if? What if the televangelist's whole angle is like the televangelist catchphrase, Theodore's catchphrase, is that addiction to marijuana must be purged. Marijuana must be purged, from this nation, for us to be happy again. And then at the very end, as he's about to get, blown away or is dying or whatever, Seth Rogen says, "You've been purged." And it's like a pun callback. You can do that.
that'll have to do.
sure, yeah.
Wait, hold on. I have something in my notes I wanted to talk about. It's so nothing. But what if the cross joint that they smoke? What if it had a tiny little weed Jesus on there? That's nothing.
That's the exact joint that Theodore pulls up when he on the screen whenever he's doing
That's
his
all
monologue.
that's all he smokes. He found a way to light it by himself.
Oh yeah, because he's a televangelist.
Yeah.
So
Oh!
of course,
We haven't talked about the
his-
movie's name.
Okay, yeah. You have ideas?
So my first idea for the movie's name would be to just find a new weed strain and call it that.
That's in my notes.
But in the first movie, Saul, when talking about Pineapple Express, says that it smells like God's pussy.
Yeah.
Which, if we're going for a televangelist religious route,
Oh,
the movie could just be called God's Pussy.
That's-
That's I don't know how well that would sell,
I
but
don't know. I don't know. That's not very marketable, Roger.
What? But the S's are dollar signs.
Oh no.
I'm gonna veto
Okay,
that
fine.
one. I mean, calling it Pineapple Express to, whatever. We didn't really discuss how Pineapple Express plays into this.
Oh, true. Well, Ted was the one who originally was the supplier for
Right.
Pineapple Express, that then went out to Red, which then went out to Saul. So Theodore, being Ted's son,
Yeah.
who, it might not even be a secret that he's Ted's son. It might be part of his act, like, my father.
Oh, yeah.
His life was ruined by blah, 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 right? Maybe that's part of his bit.
Sure.
But he would potentially have, you know what? No. Because all of the Pineapple Express plants were in El Dorado and
That's
got
true.
burned up.
Right. So all of that weed got burned up. But it is possible that Ted had some extra at his actual house, which didn't get burned up. So Theodore Jones could also have an exclusive supply of Pineapple Express.
So we're thinking
and he could just possibly
Return
be using that
or
to
Rise of or
What's like
or
what's
Pineapple
like
Express
like
Strikes
a
Back.
thing that what's like a synonym for express? It could be like
I'm guessing you don't know that Pineapple Express is an actual like weather pattern that does
Right.
kind of bring like I guess soil and stuff from like the Pacific islands and stuff like that. So
interesting.
I do like the idea Roger just had about like rise of the Pineapple Express or something along those lines.
Return of Pineapple Express.
Pineapple Express.
Pineapple Express lives.
Pineapple Express again. What if it was just called Tropical Bullet Train?
I think that's the surviving strain
Yeah.
has been mutated or whatever and
Son
it's
of
become
Pineapple
Tropical Bullet
Express!
Train. Oh,
That's
it. That's it.
Kind of like a son of the mask.
Yeah.
I like Son of Pineapple Express.
Son of Pineapple Express. I mean, because it ties into like the familial themes of Ted versus Theodore, and the last remaining
Right.
strain of Pineapple Express that's been whittled down to even further perfection in the underground belly of this church. And it could have a legacy within the podcast that Seth Rogen continues to talk about. You'll never believe how good this weed was, and all of his fans are like, "It's
And
a
it's
legend.
gone.
It's never going to exist again." But secretly, all this time, Tropical Bullet Train has been underground.
I think that's it, man. So let's see. Let's just go ahead.
Yeah,
and
recap that.
I did miss a little portion on there because my headphones cut off. But okay, so Dale is now a popular podcaster, one of the most popular ones in the country. Goes on about how great weed is, especially this Pineapple Express that no one else in the world except for Dale Saul and a couple of teenagers have ever tried.
After weed was decriminalized, he shared by the corrections officer from the first movie, who blew the lid off of the whole problem. He was able to share his story, which contributed to his fame and success.
Right, inspired a ton of people. Inspired a ton of people in Congress and the Senate, and weed was finally legalized. Saul has gone on to actually become a civil engineer. How big of a civil engineer? We'll leave that a little vague. But he does get wind of plans for this new megachurch that Theodore Jones is building.
A megachurch and addiction center for healing poor marijuana addicts.
Yes. He gets wind that it is actually being built on top of El Dorado, and brings this information to Dale to kind of put out into the world and bust the lid wide open. In that attempt, though, Theodore sends out a bunch of goons, a whole kill squad, to kind of get rid of these two, in which they narrowly escape. And now they're on the road trying to find assistance from anywhere they can. They seek assistance from the liaison officer, who does have a name, I believe, but we're just going to call her liaison officer because I don't want to spend time looking it up. They try to find help from Red, but they can't find him. Instead, they just get his wife, who kind of says, like, yeah, I can't help you or whatnot, until the very end. After all these hijinks, they keep getting into situations with the two goofballs that Theodore has sent after them.
The whole time, everyone's like, he's like talking to people and like trying to get help. I'm like, I'm Dale Denon, podcast. is like, what do you mean podcast?
I don't know what podcast is. They go to the retirement home where Saul's grandmother
Bubby!
lived,
I
and
wanted to
they're
bring
just
Bubby
like,
back for the sequel as well.
Yeah. Bubby, same actress, still white.
Yeah, no
Even
confusion
though Saul is now played by
by
Donald
Donald
Glover.
Glover. Yeah. So ultimately, they finally find a way to break in to the megachurch to kind of get the evidence that they need, but they're thwarted. Theodore knew they were coming the whole time, and with the help of Angie's father, possibly even Angie, they try to ruin Dale, to discredit him, so that nothing he says can stop their plan. However, Dale gains the upper hand, and with a live stream from the church's own cameras, reveals to the world Theodore's true intentions.
To recriminalize marijuana and then be the only supplier of Tropical Bullet Train to the world. Or probably just Pineapple Express again, because we are using that title. But yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately revealing to the world that he is the son of Pineapple Express. And, so, after the showdown, bullets fly. Dale is nearly defeated, only to gain the upper hand. The liaison officer cuffs Theodore Jones. Angie's father comes out with a shotgun, but is thwarted by Saul as he comes in yelling his own catchphrase of, give me something just real quick, Roger.
And this is America.
Yes, let's go with that. This is America. Thwarts Angie's father. They're all safe and sound now. The place, however, is burning down to the ground again, so everyone is getting super high within a
Yes,
25-mile radius.
The movie ends with a burning church. Unlike the first one, this movie is unquestionably unproblematic. No one's gonna have an issue with this film.
Absolutely. So just for the final scene of the movie, who is in the diner recapping what happened? We obviously have to have Dale and
What if
Saul.
it's a corner booth
Who else is
and
joining
it's
them?
like it's just so many characters.
Red's wife,
A bleeding Red,
the school cop,
right? Liaison, Saul, Dale. I kind of want one
Bubby.
more person in there.
No, Bubby is picking them up
Bubby's with her Ford Focus.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just leave it at those 5.
What if they find a dog? What if they get a dog? I really just want a Jack Russell Terrier in this movie.
I think so.
There's just a random Jack
Sure.
Russell Terrier at
Yeah.
the table with them. So, all right. So the film just ends with all of them recounting as Bubby pulls up again. They all climb in. Bubby gives her iconic final line, "You all smell like shit." Roll credits.
There you
So
go.
that's it. We just made it. Pineapple Express 2, aka Son of Pineapple Express.
I gotta ask Xavier, do we have the green light? Can we get it made? Can we get funding?
How do we get this in the hands of Seth
I just-
Rogen?
Probably just buy one of his classes to do pottery and just pitch it. We just play the podcast over the speakers as
We'll
we're
get
doing
a
it.
cameo.
Yeah. So no, I dig it. I like this idea. I'm gonna give it my thumbs up.
Yeah.
Who do you
we
think
did it,
we can get to
Roger.
direct it?
I have to go with the one of Donald Glover's longtime collaborators, Hiro Murai, who directed the This Is America music video and all of Atlanta.
Did you look that up just
He's
now?
No, I've watched all of Atlanta.
Okay.
He's an amazing director. Very surreal, very sort of psychological in a way that I think is going to be great for a stoner comedy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what Atlanta feels like. So
I have to wonder though, before we wrap up, what sound would Seth Rogen make upon hearing about this pitch? Oh my god! That's
I'm so glad you remembered because I
That's
totally forgot.
great. That's it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, please give us a like, a follow, whatever you see fit. Please, if you enjoyed this episode and this is your first time listening, go back, listen to some of our other episodes. The format's changing entirely, but it's still, worth going and getting familiar with the show itself.
yeah.
If you want somewhere to start, Jet was also on our Santa Claus Conquers the Martians episode, which is personally one of
Yeah.
my favorites.
Easily one of the best episodes we have.
Yes. Now, Roger, do you want to give them a list of some of our socials that they can check us out on?
You could do Instagram, Twitter. I just started a TikTok. That has nothing on it. I want to pull some clips from this episode. But they are part 2_pod. You can find us on Facebook, but that one required me to put part 2 : the sequel, continued 1 dot. So,
The elaborate name we picked for this
yes.
show. All right. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also go give us a follow on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. And tell a friend, whatnot. Jet, do you have any closing thoughts?
You can find me on YouTube at Jet Kuso, and on Tumblr at Jet Kuso. Tumblr. I will probably be posting when this episode goes up another poll. I imagine for our next potential movie that we're gonna be watching.
Oh, yes, that reminds me. Did you guys have potential movies that we could pitch right now?
I so desperately want to write a sequel for Inception.
My movie will be The Nice Guys.
Nice Guys. Okay. All right. So Inception or The Nice Guys.
Two high concept films.
Should we leave it at 2, or do you think 3 would be a good balance?
We can do 3.
Okay. Man, I had it earlier. The Big Lebowski.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right.
All right. So it's either gonna be between Inception, The Nice Guys, or The Big Lebowski.
I do gotta wonder about the risk of mostly watching comedies for this. Because we're not gonna be funnier than The Big Lebowski and whatever we come up with.
That's true. So let's just hope that it doesn't win.
That's fair.
Let's frickin' see.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll throw that poll up on my YouTube. It should be in my community tab. And you guys can decide what we do next.
A big shout out to Peyton Petkus for giving us our theme song. We are still using it. Peyton, we still love you. Let's do the thing where we all say the thing. And we'll see you next time on part 2.
The sequel.
Continue.